No popular music genre values individuality quite as much as hip hop does. In a constant battle to have a voice, a persona, or a style that stands out from the rest, the occasional instance of musical doppelgangers is usually cause for scrutiny, jokes, and debate. With high-profile examples of hip-hop sound-alikes like Action Bronson and Ghostface Killah, J.I.D. and Kendrick Lamar, and Designer and Future, when do these extreme similarities cross the line from crazy coincidence to copy-paste music? A great example of an unintentional sonic doppelganger in rap is the uncanny similarity between the voices of legendary Wu-Tang Clan member Ghostface Killah and the Albanian-American rapper Action Bronson. Both rappers are from New York, and the chef-turned-rapper Bronson has explained in interviews that he's known his rapping voice and style, including the East Coast production and the food-inspired bars, sound very much like Ghostface's. In an interview with Hip Hop DX in 2011, Bronson took the comparisons in stride and found them complimentary, saying Ghost is one of the best rappers alive, and that it was fine by Bronson if the comparisons were made as long as people respected his individuality. For years, the comparison lingered, but didn't seem to be any more than a well-known coincidence. Even Ghostface himself gave Bronson props in a 2012 interview with Fuse. The comparison only became a problem in 2015 in a moment of pride for Bronson on the popular ESPN show Sports Nation. Earlier that year, Ghostface Killah made a light joke about confusing an Action Bronson verse for something he may have forgotten he recorded. Whether that reached Bronson or not, he had been on a roll leading up to the release of his major label debut, Mr. Wonderful, and took a different approach to being asked about the Ghostface comparison on live television. While he insisted Ghost was an all-time great, he said he was indifferent about the comparison rather than honored. Once Max Kellerman told Bronson a story about mistaking him for Ghost, Bronson now infamously replied, "He's not rapping like this no more." He doubled down by saying he was just being honest when Marcellus Wiley asked if it was a shot at the Wu-Tang icon. In fairness to Action Bronson, having to hear the same opinion of your music for an entire length of your professional career when it takes away from who you are as an artist must be irritating. Unfortunately, the Ghostface comparison was simply unshakable. It took one mistake for the comparison to shift from an annoyingly funny coincidence into an obstacle that made Bronson have to earn back some respect in the hip-hop community. While he's built up a strong fan base and has a quality discography, being scolded by Ghostface Killah about handling the comparison comments with disrespect has kept Bronson from being as hot as he was in 2015. Despite the mistake made on ESPN, Action Bronson's track record is that of a unique artist who respects what came before him. Having that voice and growing up in Queens meant there was no way Bronson could avoid the Ghostface comparisons unless he simply didn't rap. Most instances of rap sound-alikes and copy-paste rappers are not pure coincidences like the Bronson-Ghostface comparison though. A step up from simply sounding like an older rapper is adopting a flow, tone, or set of vocal effects unique to a notable hip-hop artist. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but artists sounding alike in this case is more intentional. Take for instance similarities between Dreamville rapper J.I.D. and TDE MVP Kendrick Lamar. While Kendrick has a variety of deliveries, one of his most well-known flows is his quick, wordy flow with the point high-pitched voice and inflections. In this cadence, he often uses short words or longer words with syllables that break down cleanly into root words he then uses for wordplay. In an unfocused yet detailed discussion of the similarities between J.I.D. and Kendrick on Kanye Today this past June, user Baby Keem highlighted moments where J.I.D. has used rhyme schemes very similar to ones used by Kendrick in the past. Kendrick's take on sing rapping and vocal inflection also seems to shine in J.I.D., with KTT users in the same forum citing his feature verse on Soho by Boogie as a strong example of J.I.D. channeling 2012-2013 Kendrick Lamar on tracks such as My Way by DJ Drama. Another high-profile example of an artist heavily influenced by another artist, to the point of showing similarities, is how much of Lil Wayne's style can be seen in Young Thug, especially early in Thug's career. Thug is not the only popular rapper who has tried to emulate Wayne. Even Kendrick Lamar has an entire mixtape dedicated to sounding like Wheezy called C4. That being said, Jeffrey is probably the most unique and effective Wayne emulator out there. The use of vocal effects, including auto-tune, is very similar, and the way each rapper often raps many words together without space in between them creates a very sticky sound that's fun to sing along to. In fact, Thug's take on Wayne's inflections and cadence is arguably the birth of what's described as a slime or YSL sound, a warbly auto-tuned style of rap where words sound like they're dripping and flowing into one another, which hides the often clever or goofy punchlines. Along with Thug, rappers such as Lil Baby and Lil Keed have taken the slime sound even further, and much of its progress can be traced back to an early Young Thug wanting to sound like Lil Wayne. When done tastefully, drawing heavy influence from an older artist can really take a new artist's vision to great heights. But then there are artists who take so much of a flow, style, or image to the point where it's cringeworthy and unworthy of respect. There's no guidebook on what copy-paste rapping looks like, but here are two of the main ways this has looked. An artist emulating another artist to the point of being the 2.0 version, or an artist ripping off an entire style or subculture despite being far removed from it. If the copycat rapper is memorable, it's usually because they found their own original artistry either before or after their copy-paste moment. The most notable example of this level of copying is the impression Designer left as a mini Future when he burst onto the scene with Panda in 2016. Aside from the extremely similar voice and enunciation, Designer's ad-libs and production choices mirrored aspects of Future's music so closely and unironically that Future refused to big up Designer in public, including a couple of thinly veiled subliminal disses in his verses over the past several years. Frequent Future collaborator TM88 also tweeted that he genuinely couldn't support Panda because of the level of similarity to Future's artistry. What makes the case against Designer worse is that he hails from Brooklyn, but has absolutely no New York influence in his music. Not to say that artists should be limited to where they're from, but rappers that have gone beyond their regions for influence tend to put their own spin on it, such as fellow New Yorker A$AP Rocky and his take on Houston's slow, lean-infused sound. Collectively, the hip-hop community determined Designer was a wannabe Atlanta rapper. Designer's attempts at showing Future love, while also lightly trolling him in ways such as naming a song Pluto after Future's debut album, did not help him shed the copycat label either. Ultimately, his lack of artistic direction has kept him stuck in the wannabe Future hole since Panda, even with the Kanye West cosign and Mike Dean's helping hand in producing his first two projects. Unlike Designer, Soulja Boy was a hugely innovative artist in his first several years in the spotlight. His mastery of internet marketing, including the use of MySpace and SoundClick, and the popularizing of ringtones, changed the game in a lot of ways. But as he faded out of the mainstream, Soulja Boy jumped on a number of different waves in search of continued relevance at the start of the 2010 decade. This most notably included a series of collaborations with Lil B from 2010 to 2011, and then a series of collaborations with Chief Keef and associated drill artists like Fredo Santana and Tato between 2012 and 2014. Despite successful collaborations during both periods, including 30,100 Million with Lil B and the 300 remix with Chief Keef, both sets of Soulja Boy collaborators sensed disingenuousness from Soulja Boy and soon beef with him. Lil B at one point called Soulja fake-based, and death threats were exchanged between Chief Keef and Soulja Boy. The moral of the story from this part of Soulja Boy's career is linking up with artists just to soak up their energy without offering anything new quickly cheapens a rapper's brand. With Soulja Boy and Designer as good examples of intensely copying individual artists, Rich Brian's early work is an example of cookie-cutter rapping, something many radio-friendly and international rap acts are caught doing. While Rich Brian has become one of the most interesting and unique acts in hip-hop today, his introduction to the rap game was made on the back of borderline parody hits, including Dat Stick and Who Dat Be. Brian has since acknowledged his cringy emulation of mainstream hip-hop tropes, including his previous stage name Rich Chigga, an evidently lame play on the fact that Ryan is Asian and not black. Once Brian achieved success and had eyes on his next work, he decided to take his craft more seriously and tell his story in ways only he could. It is this shift and evolution in his approach to rap on his last two projects, Amen and the recently released The Sailor, that has helped Rich Brian permanently shed the parody label. Perhaps imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but without a new spin on an original sound, continued imitation is perhaps one of the greatest crimes a rapper can commit. Rappers sounding like other rappers is bound to happen though, and there's plenty of space in the game to appreciate younger artists being heavily influenced by older artists and taking the flows and sounds of OGs further. This has been a Hip Hop Madness original. Make sure to stay tuned and stay up to date with everything we got going on by hitting that subscribe button and notification bell. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Hip Hop Madness and join the movement.